Okay, so gather around, people. What we're going to do, we're going to shoot this moonrise. Tonight the moon's going to be coming up just across the rocks there. I'm going to be shooting from a further back from a distance, probably 200 mils, just so that we can pull that moon in quite big. We're going to get Shana on the rocks here that never get covered in water, so she'll be totally safe. As that moon comes up, we need to try and balance the light on Shana with the light in the background. So Corey's going to be turning that light up and down just to get us the right amount of light on Shana. We're going to have a soft light on Shana, and we're going to have a little bit of movement in that water, possibly, depending on the conditions. Later on, as it gets a bit darker, we'll just drop our shutter speed down a bit slower and get a little bit more movement in that water. Okay, so cross our fingers and hope for the best. Don't put that in the video. And when I've shot the moonrise before, it's best to do it the day before the full moon, which was yesterday. But the problem is that it rises with the sky like that, so it's really faint. We need to have a bit of darkness in that sky, just so that that moon's going to pop and come up forward. We might do a few shots of you standing, just weight on the front foot and trail this foot back a little bit, just elegant sort of things that look nice. Maybe some shots with your hands up above your head looking out towards the moon. We'll just shoot the back of you. So we'll just play around a little bit that way. I'll probably the easiest way is if I mimic the pose for you and then you just look at me. I've been waiting for a time when the moon rises at this specific location. It doesn't often get this far south in the year. This middle of winter it gets further south. Yep. So I looked on the photographer's ephemeris and saw that the moon was rising fairly south at this time of year, and then I just had to nail a day when we got the moon rise at the right time, which is just after sunset, because we need to get that dark sky for the moon to appear bright. And it's just a matter of lining up everything on the day and hoping for good weather. If we don't get the moonrise to come up, we can always get Corey to turn his back and we'll just shoot over the top of his head. Turn your head around, Corey, so we can see. Perfect. There you go. All right, we'll get in position because it's going to happen pretty quickly. I'm going to shoot from back there. So are you okay just to get your feet wet? That flat rock there is the one I'm thinking of. See, it's up higher than all the rest? Yep. It'll get a little bit of water over it, but I think it should be okay. Yep. If it's a problem, we can move to another one, but we'll try and do that one if we can. Okay? So just look. We'll get... Yep. When you're researching a moonrise shot like this, it's obviously a good idea to find out what time the moon's going to rise. Now, a full moon will always rise at sunset, but the timing might vary a little bit from one day to the next or from 1 month to the next. So find out exactly what time that moon is rising, because you don't have a lot of time. If you want to include some landscape or some seascape in your image, you're going to have to work pretty quickly, because after about 15 minutes from the moonrise, you're going to lose that moon. It's going to be too high for you to include that foreground in. Also, you need to find out the direction that the moon is rising. There are apps that you can use that will give you exactly the direction that that moon's rising on a particular day. So plan it. Have a look at that moonrise direction on a map so that you can be in place when that happens. Make sure that your foreground is going to be in the right spot for that moonrise when it happens. So the direction is very critical. It may help to go out on the night before, just to rehearse some of this stuff, to make sure that you know how much time you've got before that moon rises too far. Now, the moon will rise slightly later each day, so your sky is going to be a little bit darker each day that you leave it. Generally, your full moon will rise before the optimal day for these sort of shoots. Your sky is going to be a little bit too bright on that full moon evening, so wait until the following day, and that's going to give you a little bit darker sky so that your moon will stand out a little bit more, but you'll still have enough ambient light to be able to capture your landscape or your seascape around your area. If you're using flash as well, you need to be able to balance that light with that ambient light that's there. As the sunset progresses below the horizon, your sky is going to get darker progressively. So there is an optimal time to be doing this sort of stuff. Your sky needs to be dark enough so that the moon is visible, but not so dark as to lose detail in your landscape or your environment. There are a few moon facts that people get wrong. Most people believe that the moon is fairly dull, so they need to use a long exposure. That's not true. The moon is lit by the sun, so it's pretty much the same brightness as our Earth is in the middle of the day. So a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second or so around about f8 at 200 ISO is going to get you close. It's going to get you detail in that moon. If you use maybe 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, then your moon is going to be blurry because it's moving through your frame, and it's also going to be overexposing the detail in the moon. So if you want those craters to show up and that texture in the moon, you need to keep your shutter speed reasonably fast. The difficulty when it gets dark is that the moon's so bright, and getting the environment exposed correctly is really difficult. So you've just got to compromise. You've got to slightly overexpose that moon so that you can bring the environment up a little bit, and that'll work so much better. So hopefully we've got some good shots. The early ones I think are the best ones because we've still got a lot of daylight around. So yeah, it was awesome. Shana did a great job.